And welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about aspect ratio and why it is important that you have a proper aspect ratio. Let's start off by just opening a document here. We're going to make a new one. We're just going to make it very simple. 1024 by 1024 pixels. Now, depending on your version of Photoshop or what image editing program you are using, your interface might look different. This is the most recent version of Adobe Photoshop CC, the 2017 release. So here we have a blank document. Now, if you remember just a second ago, I made this 1024 by 1024 pixels. This is what they has an aspect ratio of 1:1. And most of the time you're going to see this aspect ratio in a comma format. So 1:1 is going to look like this. And what this means is that the horizontal and the vertical aspect are equal. Now some other ones you might be common for seeing are things like 16:9, which is very common, and 4:3. Let me draw some quick examples of what these might look like in terms of their shape on the screen. So I've drawn up these three squares here with the different aspect ratios. The first one being 1:1, and you can see it is a perfect square. It is equal on both the horizontal and the vertical dimensions. The next one, 4:3, which is still used in some media, but not as common as it used to be, where it is 4 units long by 3 units high. And then of course the super common right now, the 16:9, is more of like a rectangle than it is more of a square. What you can see here is that I put up a couple of numbers in pixels, the dimensions of these aspect ratios if the horizontal pixels are at a full 1024 and their corresponding height in pixels, where a 1:1, as you can see, is exactly equal because 1 is equal to 1. But once we get into 4:3 aspect ratio, that number changes a little bit. Now we're down to 768 pixels high, but it is within that still 1024 pixels wide. And 16:9 gets even more extreme with that height dropping down to 576. Now, depending on what you're working on, these aspect ratios could mean different uses, and we're going to go over that in a little bit here. While just knowing what aspect ratios are for your pictures is important, we also need to talk about what the limits are and what is most commonly used in terms of Second Life textures and pictures. As you can see on the screen here, there's quite a different aspect ratios that are being used, as well as the relative sizes. If you are on the official Linden Labs viewer, you can see up here, these are the most common ones that are used. Now in the lower ones, these are the aspect ratios for the older style viewers, but a lot of the third-party viewers still use these aspect ratios and sizes. A good example of these picture sizes would be things like Black Dragon and the much more popular Firestorm. Probably the most important one of all these pictures would be your profile picture, represented here. This is the aspect ratio for pictures in people's profiles. As you can see, they have this listed as 4:3 ratio. Now in the parentheses next to it, you can see they also have a picture pixel size. This is the small picture that you would see on a profile before you would click it and open it up to a full size. Now let's talk about why this is important, because a lot of times you will see some pictures and textures being stretched or compressed in different ways. And this is because the original picture that was uploaded is not formatted properly from your image editing software and then uploaded. Let me show you what I'm talking about with some example images, both using the 1.1 and the 4.3. Here is a picture of myself that I did a while ago, and this picture is in a 4:3 aspect ratio. Now when we upload textures to Second Life, a few things can happen, and this is a good aspect ratio to show and describe what actually happens when you upload it. Now, let's resize this and get it out of the way. So if I take this actual picture and I upload it in a 4:3 aspect ratio, the Second Life texture system is going to recognize this and scale it to a 1:1 aspect ratio picture, and it's square. And you can see on the screen here how the visual distortion has squished it from the sides. And that's because when you upload a picture to Second Life, it tries to get it as close as it can to powers of 2, meaning that it tries to get it to a very specific set of dimensions. This is okay because if we set the view for this texture to a 4:3 ratio, it'll look proper again. What I've done here is shown a quick example using that same image, different aspect ratios, and how, if you were to crop it properly, where the cropping would be. As you can see, in green, with a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is what the native aspect ratio of this picture is, that will take up the entire space of that picture. But if we were to crop it any other way, like 1:1, which is indicated by the red square, you can see that we're missing some of the cutoff on the left side. And while this is not a problem in this case, as it's mostly negative space, it becomes much more evident that working and saving and uploading in proper aspect ratio is more important when we talk about 16:9 aspect ratio, where the entire chest area is almost completely cut off, and a lot more negative space is included in the left side. Here, I'm going to be uploading the picture just to show you what I'm talking about more visually when it comes to this aspect ratio and how it is important. Now this picture is formatted for the 4:3 aspect ratio because it is intended to be used as a profile picture. As you can see, just doing the base upload, it shows that this picture is 1024 by 1024 pixels, and that aspect ratio is being displayed as 1:1. And this doesn't look very flattering because this is not the way this picture was meant to be uploaded. But if we change this to 4:3, you can see that it now looks properly aspect and distortion free. Hopefully this was helpful to you all, and look forward to seeing the next video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thumb up if you like it, thumb down if you didn't like it, and tell me how I can do better. Catch you guys all next time.